morning, everyone. So you are here because actually I'm sure you love Dr. Diari and his team. But you're here because you have an interest in artificial intelligence, and this interest has seen a surge in the last maybe couple of years. Closer. Is it better? Yeah. Good. Thank you. And this surge, let's not hide the fact that what we call large language models, or things like ChatGPT, have brought AI again to the surface. I've been told that we have 15 minutes, and as you can see, it's very strict. You can't ask a professor to talk for 15 minutes, it's impossible. But I'll try and summarize what I want to talk about with AI in education. But before I do, I'm not an expert in AI in education. I've done a lot of work in AI since the early 90s. When I was at Cranfield, I set up the AI Applications Unit in 1992. I worked for the Airbus Consortium, designing AI systems for distributed, integrated design. And of course, as Dr. Diaz said, I've been in the UK higher education sector for more than 35 years. So I understand a little bit about education, I understand a little bit about AI, and I am a user of AI in education. So that's the perspective I will be bringing to you here today. So I will skip this one. I'll surprise you with what I'm going to cover, or probably not. So Dr. Dian mentioned Al-Khwarizmi as one of the pioneers. And I have a great deal of sympathy with that, but they gave us 15 minutes, so we're not going to go that far in history. The recent history of AI goes back to the 50s. In fact, if you go to the British Museum, you will find one of the artifacts is the Babbage machine. And the Babbage machine just adds numbers, 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7, etc., and it gives you an output, or 2 plus 4 plus 6, etc. And in the 1830s, that machine was thought of being intelligent, being smart. So depending on where you put the bar, intelligent machines have been with us for quite a while, but I'm going to go to the early 50s with the seminal work of Alan Turing, and I think Councillor Bakhtiar this morning mentioned the AI summit that took place in Bletchley this year, and Alan Turing worked in Bletchley in those years. And he wrote a paper in which he asks the question, can machines think? And many believe that was the beginning of AI as we know it today. But the phrase artificial intelligence was coined in 1956 in Dartmouth College. It's called the Dartmouth Conference. 17 or so scholars got together to discuss how they can create machines or build machines that would mimic the way humans behave. So we moved a long way since then. We don't have time to go through the history, but from then on we moved to expert systems, to neural networks came back in the 90s because of the powers we have in computers and the data, etc. To today, where we have these large language models that can do lots of things. And I'm going to focus on generative AI and education. I use this slide, I call it the overused slide, because my background in AI has shifted towards using AI for cybersecurity, and I call this the grand challenge. The combination of superconnectivity, data tsunami, and artificial intelligence. Many put the number of devices that are connected today, sharing information about you, about me, about everyone, to something in the region of 50 to 60 billion devices. So these devices are creating huge amounts of data. In fact, the amount of data we created over the last 5 years or so is more than all the data that humanity has created ever since Adam alayhi salam walked on this planet. So Professor Song talked about the data, and Professor Dia also mentioned data being the fuel for AI. So this is a huge opportunity. All this data that's available there is making AI systems thrive on using the data to deliver certain aspects of what we want to do. So I'm going to talk about education and some of the benefits of using AI in education. Different ways of learning. So this chalk and talk we moved away from chalk and talk. So today we have the possibility, and let's not kid ourselves, we are at the very early stages. We're all learning. The top universities in the UK, in the US, everywhere else, we are still learning how to use AI in the classroom. And hopefully later we have a masterclass where we can delve into the detail of how we can use these technologies to support personalized learning, so people with particular disabilities or the way they progress and perform is different. So instead of having one teacher or one lecturer who will be overwhelmed by all the needs, we can have personalized assistants where the learners can use these personalized assistants, which are made by AI, in their own time to learn, and then come to the classroom to learn from other peers, doing exercises together, doing some practical work, learning in collaboration. And of course, AI assistants can support educators to prepare lessons, to do marking, give feedback to students, and these tools exist today, and they are used in some ways. Some institutions are using these tools more than others. Many institutions are still working out policies and procedures and cultures. How are we going to deal with this? And I think this conference is really very timely. I can't remember, I think it's Councillor Bakhtiar who said, pioneers, you are the pioneers. It is timely because we are asking all these questions, and it's only important that this conference asks the same question to move us forward in this part of the world. One thing that these assistants will allow is widening access. So if I have a disability and I'm in the middle of a classroom made of 50 students, I will not have access to learning in a similar way as other peers. Whereas if I have a personalized learning assistant, they can customize the learning based on what I need, and that will give me access to education that probably I wouldn't have had access to. And of course, institutions and educators are using AI assistants to do learning analytics, to understand how students are performing so that they can support them better. Who is doing what they should be doing and who is lagging behind, and what can be done to support these students. Of course, with these benefits, and I'm more than happy to talk about these in more detail either later or during the masterclass, with these benefits come concerns. If you ask the academics, probably the first thing that comes to their mind is cheating. ChatGPT and Bard or what's called now Gemini, they are being used by students to produce assessments, to produce coursework. How do we know that the coursework is actually, the work of the student or the work of an AI? So there is work for us to do there to ensure that we prepare students and we prepare educators to use these technologies to benefit their learning instead of doing something like plagiarism or cheating. If some students say, okay, why should I bother raising my hand and asking the question when I actually can get a better answer from ChatGPT? So the relationship between the student and the learner and the educator needs attention. And perhaps the onus there is on the educators. Many times I hear some of my colleagues from different institutions, they would say, yeah, but if I put my slides on the learning environment, students will not come to my classroom. Well, if your students are coming to the classroom to listen to you talking, then perhaps they should be staying at home. And they can look at that in their own comfort zone. So what is the added value that learners, that educators bring to the classroom that would make these students come, even if they had an assistant, an AI assistant? So that relationship will be defined by how we deliver and what added value we deliver in the classroom. Privacy was mentioned, and of course, these AI systems are using data, whether it's students' data, whether it's educators, institutions. So where is that data going and what's being done with it? I think that's an issue there for us to worry about. Students and sometimes educators and users of these large language models, they assume that the answers are correct. That's not true. Most times the answers are good, but there are inaccuracies in the answers sometimes, and students and learners and users of these systems need to be aware of that. There is what we call the black box problem. These AI systems, if you ask an expert and ask them, how did you come to that conclusion? They will explain. They'll tell you how they got there, why they made that decision. You ask a ChatGPT, they don't know. Well, they won't tell you, because all the thinking, I think it was shown here in the middle layers, all the thinking was happening there, so the output is there, but we don't know how we got to that output. So that black box can cause problems, and of course bias, because these systems have been developed, designed by certain communities with a certain culture, and they may bring their own views and ideas into a society that may not agree with those views and ideas. So there is a bias there, and that needs to be taken into account as well. Adoption by tutors, how am I doing? 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to rattle through this because there are a couple of slides I need to show you. Tutors are very busy, and I'll come to this in a minute. And of course, not everyone has access to technology, and that will make some, go backward instead of going forward. How not to be prepared? If we don't invest and innovate, we will go backward. If we are too busy, why don't you do this? Can't you see I am very busy? And I think educators are busy people, and giving them more work to do without looking at the whole picture is going to be problematic. This slide is very important. I call it the health scenario. You cannot do this by yourself. We've got here representatives from different communities, and that's what we need. We need collaboration, coordination, and consistency. 3 C's. We all need to work on this together to get the best of AI in education, or indeed in any other subject area. And I will leave you with that.